Mr. Adam. And he said he received his Social Security on the 15th of the month. So he asked if he could have until the 20th to pay. And so we can just do it in court, I guess. Or I can do it tonight if you have the agreement. We're just going to strike through 10th and write 20th.
Okay.
And then I'll initial them, and he comes in to pay, he'll initial.
Okay. I will grab it before, don't leave that.
Yeah,
well,
I won't. Yeah, I won't.
I'll get it. Or if you have to leave, I'll bring it up tomorrow. We'll get it taken care of.
Perfect. Yeah, or I can stop by, that's fine. But yeah. Oh, I mean, I guess we could do it on the 14th at municipal court because he's not going to make the payment because his payment doesn't come in. So we'll just do it in municipal court.
Okay.
That way neither of us have to run around.
Sounds good.
And then I didn't see anything else that Mr. Naylor. I still haven't spoken with him.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting. Been moved by Amanda, second by Cale. All in favor? Approved. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes of the budget workshop. Been moved by Larry. Second by Amanda. All in favor? Approved. Okay, consent agenda. We need permission for clerk to pay insurance at time of billing, to pay utilities at time of billing, to pay utility incentive before the 25th of the month, to pay theater bills when due, and to pay payment service network bills when due.
Also moved.
Moved by David. Second by Cale. All in favor? Approved. Okay. We'll let Carrie and Helen, who are here, and we're on the agenda. We'll put them here, visitors. And what do you have for us?
We're just passing through. So, no, pardon my voice. When we met, was it 2 weeks ago? We presented the budget and everything for you guys to look at. We've had subsequent meetings after that, and we appreciate the time 2 weeks ago. But we're here tonight asking is if it would be possible to, for that sportsman's conference in Colorado, if we could have you guys agreeance to pay for that out of the transient guest tax, since that's one of the largest ways we get in here is through the hunting times. If we could do that, it's $2,554, $2,554 is what that is. If we could do that, it would allow us then to reallocate, and then we could add a little bit to salary-wise. And since we didn't want to go back and say, hey, now we're rethinking, we kind of want to raise salary and stuff like that, but we could, if we could flip things, just like rearrange things a little bit. That was an idea that we had, so it's what we were stopping by tonight to see about that, because like I said, the total cost on that is right at $2,500. And if we could use the transient guest tax to make that possible, then we would free up a little bit of other funding that we could allocate back toward salary. So.
Yeah, because we've already done our budget.
Right.
What do we have in the transit?
So for our expense budget remaining this year, we've got $15,291.69. This isn't until January of next year.
Correct.
If we encumber it now, though, I will want to pay it out of 2021 if we're going to encumber it this early on in the year. So it would come out of this budget, and we'd be fine.
The Colorado Sportsman Show is where we have gone and set up our Cheyenne County booth with all the information we've done. As an example, we take things from Murray's, we take things from the hunting lodges, from Erskine's and stuff like that, Myers's, and then we lay out, because that is the big hunting show. We gather a lot of support from Colorado this way of people coming out, staying in the area to hunt. Again, once they come out to hunt, they stay, they eat, they fill up the gas, so it's a perfect thing if it's agreeable, and I'm not trying to count my chickens before they're hatched. for the transient guest tax, because that's where it comes from. And so it just kind of was a thought process that we had.
How long is that event?
Do what?
How long is the event?
It's a week. It's a weekend. It's a Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday.
It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. and
Oh,
Sunday.
Thursday. Okay.
Been doing that for quite a while,
Yeah. Yeah.
for several years, even when Chuck Cribbs was.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we do it in conjunction with Northwest Kansas
Right.
Tribal Council.
Yeah.
And that way they pay for the booth space, so we don't have to do that. We just look at
Right.
the additional expenses.
But what it costs us then is that 25.54. That's been the kind of the running figure. But we have done it for quite a while. We got a lot of push for Cheyenne County through that booth up there. So anyway, just food for thought. Just throwing it your way. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks.
Any discussion on that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion to,
I'll second.
motion made by Larry, second by Amanda, all in favor? Approved for
Thank you very much.
2005-54.
Thank you very much.
2554?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as you get
Thank
an
you guys for doing
invoice
that,
for
too.
that.
Oh, thank you guys. Oh, what?
You're saying you're
Sorry.
invoice?
Is it, yes. I mean, is it an invoice type of thing? Because I'll have to have something to pay.
We can make it into.
Okay.
That won't be a problem.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. What's your notation this?
Did you stop in for something, or just,
I'm just trying to learn. I figure I'll get straight information here, and I may not get straight if I go to the coffee shop, so. That's all I need to do. And I do, if I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. A few things I might share with you. I want to commend, I think, 3 of your people were at the Senator Marshall's meeting. We're trying to get the word around. You've opened it up that we can put it on the marquee. I goofed and didn't get down there quick enough to get it on the other day. And I'll try to do better in the future and get Lila informed so we can, when our elected officials come to town, we know about it and try to get people there. So I think we need to be there and know what's going on. We complain about our government, but when we have the opportunity to hear what's going on and express it, we fail sometimes to do a very good job of listening. Another concern I have is the newspaper. I've got it, if you want to see it. The newspaper down in Sheridan Springs does a fabulous job. They get city council information in there, commissioners meetings, school board meetings. I don't know what goes on here. And like you guys might think about it, I don't think I have any clout for Mr. Haynes, but he wants to be our official newspaper.
we don't either.
I wish we knew too.
We don't either.
With your permission, I'll go after him.
You can go after him because it don't seem like anything gets done, so.
We don't have any press. We didn't have any press at our senators meeting the other day either. I don't know what little information we get where they're getting it. But anyway, I just think we ought to have that kind of information for the public. At least if we have the opportunity to know if we don't. I've been told that 30% of our people in Cheyenne County get this newspaper, and only 30% of us read it. That's another problem we have. We're very blind. We don't follow up on informing ourselves about what's going on. And the next thing, comment, this week I've looked at it. The one we get says $1.25. Atwood gets one that says $1, and it was a 10-page edition, and ours was an 8-page edition. So you might ponder all this. I'm just trying to get people to think. And how do we begin to make some change that needs to be made, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's why only 30% of the people that do get the paper read it, because there's nothing in it.
I'm sorry.
There's not much in there,
Well, yeah, that's
in the paper.
I know I got picked up a good little paper and had a lot of other information in it. And this Atwood, if you want to look at it, I've got, let me know and I'll share it with you.
It caught my attention this time, though, because that picture of the fireworks is my granddaughter. But it was my daughter that took the picture. They called her and asked her if they could use the picture, which was good, but that wouldn't have been in there either.
So, anyway, something I'll just share.
Yeah, if you could talk to him, talk to him.
Like, one of my pet peeves, and I hope you all get, is phone calls. if I call somebody and they say their voicemail, most of them say they'll call me back. So I'm going by a 24-hour rule. If you won't call me back, I'll be back at you. And I just think as courtesy, we ought to return our phone calls. And maybe our phones are broken, I don't know, but it's one of I spend more time playing they're not even telephone tag because they won't call me back, so I can try to tag them. But anyway, you've heard one old crank's complaint, so go back to your meeting.
Okay, thanks, Alan. You do a lot in the community too, thank you. Okay, well, let's move on to new business, the budget review.
So I mailed it out to everybody, after I got it back from the auditors, and there were very little changes to what you had requested. She had to make changes in the transfers, which we were anticipating in order to keep the mill levy down. And she did that. She made some minor adjustments to the special highway fund. She just wanted, I had it to where we were using all the funds this year and no carryover. She just made it so that there's some carryover into next year. I don't think that's going to happen because I think JR plans on spending it all, but we've got the budget authority to spend what's there. So it'll just affect then next year. If we don't have that beginning balance, then next year's we might have the spend authority, but we're not going to have the money in the fund, if that makes sense. So she did that, and she had to adjust the special parks fund. I had neglected to put the half of the alcohol tax has to go into that fund, and half of it stays in the general fund, and I missed that. So that was a minor $400 adjustment that she had to make there. And then other than that, our proposed mill levy is 43.028. Then that is above the revenue neutral rate. Also, we will need to have the revenue neutral rate hearing. We can have that on the same night as the budget hearing. The order would be you just have the revenue neutral rate hearing, listen to anybody that wants to comment, answer questions on the budget, and then if you decide to stay where you are, then a resolution is adopted to indicate that we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate. And then you close that hearing. Do you have a question?
We're over the revenue neutral?
Yes, we always will be, and mostly because of the library, because we have to levy 4.5 for them unless we reduce hours, which would be difficult to do.
We discussed that at the
Plus,
last meeting, didn't we?
yeah, and I think it's a good plan to exceed it intentionally, because this hearing, if you don't have the hearing, if you think you're going to not exceed it, but then valuations change between June and December, and then you end up exceeding it because of the mill levy that you levied, you have to reimburse everything back to the taxpayers that you overestimated. So as long as you have this hearing, it doesn't matter if the valuations change, because you've already said we are going to exceed it. And if it changes and you exceed it by a little bit more, it's okay because you've already said you're going to. So it's a good idea. Every budget workshop I've gone to, everything I've gone to that's talked about this, they're recommending you just do it intentionally, even if it's just $1. Do it so that you cover yourself, because you never know what the valuations are going to do. So, so with that, you'd have your revenue neutral rate hearing, and then you listen to anybody that wants to speak. You vote on the resolution, you pass the resolution, close that hearing, you open up your budget hearing. It's basically the same thing, but you have to have a budget hearing to actually adopt the budget. And that's the one that we always do, the budget hearing. So you can do it right after that, have the budget hearing, close it out, and then if you guys wanted to do it before a council meeting, then we carry on with the council meeting. So tonight what we have to do is we have to have a motion. So I'll just read you what the motion needs to be. A motion to notify the county clerk of the city's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate with a proposed mill levy rate of 43.028 and a revenue neutral rate hearing to be held on whatever day you guys decide. So you have to decide that tonight when you're going to do that.
Like, when do we need to have the budget?
Well, the budget's
But the hearing, the budget
Okay,
hearing.
so
right?
that
We
needs
have
to be
that by
held
August, right?
between August 20th and September 20th, anytime
So
between
we
there.
can just do them the second meeting in August?
Yeah, August 23rd.
Okay. Then I'll make that motion to go ahead and pass a resolution notifying the county clerk.
Well, it's not a resolution tonight.
Sorry.
It's just, he's got this form.
Okay, what'd you say then?
So we
Notice.
just notify the county clerk.
Okay, I'll make a motion then to notify the county clerk that we are going over the revenue neutral rate and propose to have a meeting the second meeting in August.
August 23rd, and at what time?
At 7, do we need to come
Well, I
early,
think-
just say 7 o'clock and
I
have it
think
first?
7, I mean, we've never had anybody come to them.
I expect next year that will change, I really do, when the notices are going out and people are more aware of what that means. This year it's so quick and sudden that it's hard to get the word out, but I do think next year we might see some folks, but,
I think we could go 7 and have that in the budget hearing.
and then a council
Start the
meeting.
meeting a little bit later. I think would be okay.
I will second that.
Okay.
It's been moved by Amanda, second by David. We need to vote on that.
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Gail, Amanda,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Okay, pass.
And then, Scott, if you could hang around for just a little bit after the meeting tonight, I will fill out this form that Scott requests, and you can sign it, and we'll be good to go.
Okay, move on to old business, property cleanup. Jair didn't say much.
I talked to him this evening on the Polson property. It is changing hands, and there's been movement as far as cleanup, and so he wants to hold off on that one, just because it is changing hands, and there is...
I'm so glad, because I brought the stack of attempts that I've made to get Tommy Paulson served, and I was going to say, I don't know what else we can do to try to get him served.
So,
That is
he was in town
one...
the Friday before the 4th, and I'm like... But anyways, it is changing hands.
Darn it, you should have called my office, told them to print it off and get it to the
I
sheriff.
called your office, and you were out, and...
I was, but Holly knows where
Sarah was out,
You
and,
should have told Holly to get it, Holly to print it. That's why.
Anyways, it's changed hands, and it is improving. And then the McCoy property, he said that they have been coming up and trying to patch the roof with some metal, but he still thinks that they haven't made contact. They need to make contact.
As of the last time we checked, so McCoy's signed letter was not delivered. It has not yet been returned to my office, but it was not signed for. We did, however, send a non-certified one just in case. Yeah, some people, when they say, hey, you have to go sign for something, they're like, I'm not doing that. So we sent one to that address uncertified just to see if it would also come back in the event it didn't get signed, and it has not come back. And that was done the same day we... That was done the day after the first non-delivery, the first attempted delivery with non-delivery. So perhaps they've gotten it, but I'm just not sure. We
But
don't
they have
a
not made contact
signed
there
Yeah.
with the fire damage, the other issues that it
Yeah.
needs to be inspected to make sure. I mean,
Absolutely.
it obviously, you just can't put a Band-Aid on it and slap some metal
Right,
and
right.
think that it will be okay. So,
Yeah.
And then for the 118 West Emerson, did you and JR
Yes.
take a look? What is the status of
It's
that one?
a solid building. He's supposed to come back with a plan to get it shingled. He said there's no way he could have it shingled in 2 or 3 weeks, and we understood that. But he's supposed to be giving us a plan of when it will be shingled to,
and the fascia, like a time
and,
frame of when he will
yeah,
get
he's
the
got to
actual...
fix that fascia and do the shingling and so forth. And if he gets that done, then we don't have a whole lot to stand on there, because it is a solid structure. It's not, the only damage inside is by the chimney coming down, and that's because the chimney's falling apart and not because of the roof. And so we gave him a time frame to come back with who's shingling it, when they're shingling it, and so forth. So
When is he supposed to let us know that?
he was supposed to try to let us know by, when was his hearing, the 27th?
Yeah.
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 I think
27th, 26.
or 26, I think he's supposed to have something back to us before then.
Okay.
So, but we did go look at it. And they did clean up some of the stuff around there that day, but.
I got two things. Have weed letters gone out, second batch, do you know?
I don't know. Jen takes care of those. I mean, so I really don't know.
And then the second thing I've got is Kelly Lampy caught JR and I after our Kelly Pond meeting last week, and just wanted to basically get a feel from us on how we thought he was doing. And then he also expressed concerns about across the street with Gary's Auto Body. And I haven't seen it, so I'm just passing the word along.
Gary does a little bit out in the street too, but not like Kelly. Nothing even close to what Kelly does. But, you know, that's what happens when we get into this. They find somebody else to start picking on. But
The several times that I've been by there, it seems like we've made progress, if we keep the progress. Anybody else seen anything?
I think on Jackson Street, part of it isn't very good progress. The rest of it has improved.
Why is there a tailgate on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Like, why is there a tailgate and then, what is that, a rotor? A wheel hub rotor? And then what appears to be an axle
Yeah.
just sitting on the sidewalk. Why is that on the
By
sidewalk?
the way, you can't have this conversation just in any old town. I mean, you know.
Do you want conversation from the gallery here? Comment? Since I'm in the gallery all the time. The tailgate's on the sidewalk because you won't let him put it in the street. It's really clear. And the difference between Gary and Kelly, both of them do work outside the shop on the street. Gary is parallel to the curb. Kelly is normally perpendicular to the curb. So Kelly, and you could put a stipulation in there. Kelly's is in the driving area of the street when he does these things. That's the part that concerns me because we have these little old people that come around the corner. When he had the pickup frame without the box and no axle that was parked there, right? That's low enough where you can't see it for those little old people. They come around Jackson all the time. And it wasn't tremendously in the roadway, but it's in the roadway.
Yeah.
So you could just say, hey, you know what? Get it back over, whatever that is. But the tailgate thing's easy. Let him put it in the street, then it won't be on the
Why can't he put it in his shop? I mean, we have an ordinance that says you can't put stuff on, you can't inhibit the sidewalk, and an ordinance that says you can't inhibit the traffic flow. So, I mean, I think that's a. Did you talk to Cody on if they're driving by okay. I may give a call up there and say that tailgate needs to. I mean, he has three buildings sitting there. He has to be able to find room for a tailgate and whatever that circle thing is.
Gary usually has his pickup and maybe a trailer there. And once in a while, he's working on something out there on the side of the street. But once in a while, he's working on some. But Kelly's got 40 vehicles around there.
Well, the difference is to me, because I'm at the gallery a lot of the day, is how far they come out into the roadway.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing if you got it setting into the curb and you've got the transmission out. Because it ain't moving very quickly. Gary's is parked alongside, but those are all runnable vehicles too.
Yeah.
A lot of times Kel's are not, and I'm not bagging on Kelly. I'm just saying that's a very visible difference.
There's usually a vehicle that's not tagged or even drivable out in the street.
Yes.
On Jackson.
Or in front of the gallery. That
Or in
can't be
front of the
moved.
gallery,
Yeah.
or on the street or something.
To answer to your question, Larry, I think he has improved it, but he's not done with the improvement.
No.
No. And we go through this vicious cycle.
Yeah, we do it all the time, but we just really need to stay on him this time.
It gets better and then it gets worse again, and you have to get back on it, and,
I tried to impress that upon them. We need to stay on track this time.
I see you got here on the Colwell fence.
Um,
That's up there on, what street is that? Second?
Second in college.
Second and College.
Probably clean up, but yeah, JR had called and had mentioned Hallwells want to put a fence around their property. Amy Grace used to live there, if you know the house we're talking about. The city actually has
Right away
a
there.
right-of-way, like an alley right-of-way through there that we've never utilized. But
It
they
used
want
to be. In the 60s, it was
Yeah,
utilized.
yeah, but it hasn't been for many years.
Yeah, it's
And so
grown in.
They have, it's in their backyard, and it essentially goes on the south of their property and angles around behind where Nigels are on Parkway, and then used to be Valjean's and Keenan's, and now it's,
It's really no man's property, but we do have our easements in there and stuff.
they want to put a fence up, and JR is okay with that, with the understanding that the city does have a
We
right
still
of way
have
if
the
we ever
right-of-ways.
needed to utilize or access that again, so.
And we would actually let him take the fence clear over to the block wall, and I can't think of the people that bought that house now.
Blackwell?
Yeah,
The new equity
equity
manager.
manager, yeah. Because there's no need of having a 2-foot barrier in there where weeds would just grow up, so it'd be better if you went clear over to the wall. If we're going to put up the fence, put it over to the wall, because the neighbors to the backside aren't want to see 2 feet of weeds growing between their retaining wall and that fence. But I think
Does that run up against the back of Roger Mitchell's?
So right
yeah,
back to-
it just curves up there.
So it'd go in between where Wyatt bought and Colwell's just bought, and it curves behind Roger Nigels,
Yeah.
and then that house, so it goes through there, that it used to be an alley. The city would never have to do.
Well, we might have to do something in there someday, but we would have to
I mean, I
write it.
just didn't know if there was anything.
Yeah, it's all grass
Yeah.
yard right now.
There's no
So
sewer or
instead of-
water in that alley. It'd be more for electrical access.
But the way the ordinance reads, like, for them to be able to put a fence up, it would have to be on that side of the city right of way, as opposed to utilizing the city right of way. And he didn't have a problem with allowing that, with the understanding that the city still has that right of way if we ever possibly needed it for.
I think he needs to apply for a permit, explain what material he's using, and then we give him the
With the
okay.
understanding.
With the understanding it's a
We
right
still
of
have
way.
the right of way. Yep.
I would have it noted on the permit approval in writing that the
Mhm.
right-of-way is being preserved.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that that's in writing and acknowledged.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that Justin?
Justin.
Okay, anything else on property cleanups? There's always something. Work out a few of them at a time and keep working on it. Projects pending, take a look at that. On projects pending, we did talk, the band shell did that stuff, got some paint on it, not the right color, so it looks striped. We need to paint it. Did you ever come up with how many years ago it was? It's been between 8 and 10 years ago,
I didn't.
Says correct.
and it needs to be repainted now.
The whole building, I think?
Yes. It is so thin, and there's a bunch of real little fine cracks, hairline cracks that will fill up with paint, that we need to get it painted either this fall or no later than next spring, and that's not going to be cheap.
There's a color,
What?
there's a color, there's a color.
Color's fine, we just need to get it repainted. And to me, it looks like when that was done, that it should have probably been at least 2 coats of paint on it. I don't know if it was 2 coats of paint, because you get up to it close and you just see a lot of stuff. It needs painted. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts, if we go ahead and try to get bids on it to get it painted this fall sometime, or wait till spring, I don't know. But
Put it out for bid and see.
Put it out for
which way it is.
bids.
Yeah, fall or spring.
might as well start it anyway, and then we can determine whether we'll do it this fall or this spring, but it needs to be done. And that would help that a lot. It would be better if we did. It would be better if we did, so. But like I said, I don't think that's going to come in real cheap on that either. Going to have to be a lot of scaffolding. Yeah. So I guess we need to get something in the paper for bids for the band shell inside and, or not inside and out, we're not going inside the building, but inside the bench, the dome and all the exterior.
Did somebody go home, paint it last time?
No, it was that, I don't remember where they were from, but,
Oh, the business center.
yeah.
Do you want it on Facebook too? I mean, the paper doesn't reach.
Yeah, that would
I'm
be all
just trying
right.
to think of other ways that we can get the word
That'd be all
out.
right.
Like the mile saver, that kind of stuff.
You want me to do
Yeah,
that?
you could do the mile saver.
You let me paint it burnt orange, I can get a good discount.
Give it away?
David's gonna paint it free if he can put orange on it.
You get a good discount.
You know, and I think the same color is fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, basically the same color. So once they start asking, we'll determine that later, so. But basically go back same color.
We have a couple of local paintings, don't we? 2 or 3?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if this would be too...
Is that something that, Steve and Mr. O, they go around doing, is that something they could do?
They're not doing much of that this year.
I think they're done. I think
And,
sheds
yeah,
It'd have to be insured,
yeah, has to be insured and everything, so
so that
we'll just see who
eliminates.
applies to do it.
What about the cracks that we looked at?
I got them filled,
Even on the front?
yeah.
Even
There's
on the
only-
roof, too.
I didn't get it all filled. I told Quinn I'd go up there and do that for him. There's a spot up there that was above my 24-foot ladder, and I would not. I decided I'm too old to be reaching any further than I am, so I quit. So there's about a 2-foot spot I did not get. And now I'm going to sell that ladder too.
How far from the top edge was it?
Well, I tried to reach down as far as I could too. I went up on top and I reached down about 2 foot, but I blocked about 2 foot. Yeah, that's why I said there's going to have, whoever does is going to have to scaffolding to be safe and stuff, so. But yeah, let's get it out then and see what it ends up being, because otherwise we're going to have more problems. Anything else on project spending?
Lauren, did you send me
And Carla,
the number for cheaper dogs?
Mhm.
Did you send it?
By email. I think it just sent, because I discovered it was not in my sent email, and so I
Okay.
just clicked refresh while we were sitting here.
Yep, there it is.
Have you, okay, yeah.
Yep. Okay,
I sent it to you earlier today.
I
And-
was out in the office all day, so.
Well, I sent it to you earlier today, and then I was in here, and I saw it was not in my sent box, so I clicked refresh, and I did send receive, and it appears that it's gone now.
I got it now. So we still don't know anything.
I sent him the drawing that Amanda had emailed me, and I said, this is from one of our council members who's done a fair amount of legwork on this, who's also our county appraiser. It's an overhead map. She would probably be better to discuss, what this is and what you're looking at, since she was the one who kind of plotted it out. He did not respond to me on that. He has not contacted Amanda, so I've given Amanda his number. At this point, I'm just not sure I'm not sure where we're at on that. So I think Amanda has his number now if you want to call the firm and follow up with him.
Yep.
I can't tell him anything other than this is the map and this is where we think it is. You may be able to, since you're the one who did it, I think you could probably discuss it a little more intelligently than I would be able to.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, do we want to do more discussion on the property up on the highway? The proposal that was made. Everybody had time to think about that?
I just don't think unless you get 3 to 5 units in there and pay for the infrastructure to get everything set up, it just doesn't make sense to me.
not enough teeth into it to make it go. One unit in there, people are just gonna drive by, they're gonna wonder why it's sitting there. They won't stop.
The only thing that I could think of would be that if there was the grain silo. I mean, if there was one unit and it was, hey, come stay in a grain silo. That was, I had several people talk to me about how that would be cool.
But you still gotta
But-
think about all the.
Oh, I
sewer,
agree, it's gonna
water,
be way,
sewer, pre-planning all of that.
Or were you thinking if we could do 5 to 7 at first, that would be cost, I mean, that would be.
There's gotta be more commitment to make it work.
Right.
There's just gotta be more commitment to something like that. And I know that means a lot more money for them.
But it's less doing it now than doing it piecemeal.
Oh, yeah, it'll cost way more to
Yeah.
piecemeal it.
And I understand the investment on it and everything, but to me, it just doesn't make sense that you're gonna have to put that infrastructure in, and you need to be prepared for it when you do it, so you do it one time.
So do we just let him know that?
I don't know that the council can make a counter offer I don't know that the council can make a counter offer of, we would do it if.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the council could say, we are rejecting this proposal, we will reconsider, but at minimum, it would need to have, because then it's still not a guarantee, hey, we would accept, but it's at minimum, this is what we're looking to consider.
Sounds like a counter proposal to me.
Yeah.
No, because there's no guarantee we're going to accept it. He can come up and say, I'm going to put the infrastructure for 3 in, I'm not going to put the infrastructure for the whole thing in, and the council can still reject it. It's not, we have a deal if, it's no to this, here is the minimum for your new
So that
proposal.
leaves it open-ended for us to be able to reject it either way.
Right.
I think the wording is, there's not enough teeth into it.
We rejected that.
Carla, did you need something?
No, we were just going to invite you over, but you're a little busy, so sometime when you have time, holler, we'd like to show you.
Okay.
It looks
Thank you.
nice what I've seen.
What?
I said I popped my head in the door and it looked nice, but I wasn't gonna interrupt your meeting.
It is nice. We're very comfortable and it's perfect, so
Yes.
thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on project pending? Okay, well, let's move on. The streets project, JR said they're supposed to be here on the 21st. So I'm surprised we haven't heard a lot of complaints why they haven't started already, but, they're running behind somewhere, so 21st is when they'll be starting. Okay, pool report.
I don't really have any updates. Appreciate the donation for the 4th.
Happy to do it.
Huh?
Happy to do it.
Yeah. We've had still pretty good turnout. Things seem to be running well. Knock on wood.
I had a huge turnout the other morning. I was driving by and,
Well, that was the big, you're talking on Saturday?
yeah, that was awesome.
Huge, huge swim meet. That's something we wanted to do a couple of years ago, but we weren't set up to do it yet, so. That drew a lot of people on it.
Looked like it was really a big success.
So I really don't have anything else on pool report. I do want to discuss a couple things on Kelly Pond.
Do I hear a motion to accept and file the pool report? Moved by Amanda, second by Derek, all in favor? Approved. Okay, we don't have that on there. Go ahead, Keller Pond.
Jared and I met with Tom Keller last week, and the Keller family has agreed to grant fund $5,000 towards the upkeep at Keller Pond and Riverwalk area. Brock McAtee has got somebody working for him that has volunteered to do the job, and I think it would be like after-hours type work. That means that we would have the insurance that we would need. JR would oversee it pretty much. We'll adjust as we need to as we go along. I think the main difference would be the city would have to put $1,000.
We have,
We'd have to just take that out of the maintenance fund that we already have.
right, which is 5,000.
Which is 5,000,
Teller
so-
code, yeah.
I mean, I think we're all seem to be on track, and we just need to make sure we approve it tonight, and then kind of get the ball rolling.
And trees that need to be planted.
Yeah. Some trees. You didn't catch it, but keep them all.
Is there going to be a written agreement then, some kind of written contract? Since they're hiring them as a contractor, we probably need it.
Is it what we used before?
We've never done anything quite like this. We had somebody that did, before I got here, I think there was somebody that did something similar. I'll see if I can find something.
We're basically looking at watering, keeping things clean, maintaining trees, weeding, mowing, which I think will be a big help, taking that off the city's resources. Jared's city guys are gonna have to do some work on like the water lines and get some of that set up. And then the goal with this is just to turn it over and say, here, you take care of it. And we don't have to take city resources to do it. So I think in the long run, it's going to really pay off. Especially with the size.
But it needs to be,
Is who you're doing.
right, well, this is the contract.
I'll just have to sell
Like any
it.
other contract, like our Hill Trash Service contract, any other contract, right? Third contractor.
Right, but it needs to be sufficiently, it would need to be sufficiently, we just need to make sure if we have an agreement in writing that it's sufficiently, I don't want to say vague, but gives them enough authorization to direct the means, manner, and method of work so that they're not actually considered an employee. Because if you have a contractor and you're saying, you have to do it on this day, or you have to do it once a week, go out and do whatever you want, but...
Contract labor at their discretion with the JR Founders. And it's going to take a year to iron things out, make sure everything's addressed.
I just want to make sure it's not worded, if we're getting into a written agreement, I just want to make sure it's not worded in any way that would give them employee status in the event anything happened.
So we need a motion on that tonight, and then we'll have JR get that finished out with Brock on how we're going to get that contract wrote up and stuff, because we need that to get it going. And so Keller's is going to supply 5,000, we'll have to take the other 1,000 out of it, because they went ahead and figured it would run about $6,000 to do what they wanted to do. And we all, one night, studied that, and it looked like that would be a good figure, and they agreed with it. So we need that motion, and we'll let JR finish out the details on it. Moved by Cale.
Second.
Second by David, all in favor? Okay. We should have had that done last April. Okay, theater board, anything on the theater?
They were meeting tonight.
I wasn't able to make it.
Foundation meeting, so.
No, but I did recommend that they set up a time to discuss wages, because usually they'll do their wage reviews at about the same time that the city does their employee reviews, and they haven't done that yet. And here we are into July, so we'll probably have a special meeting. They will probably have a special meeting just for that. And they're not doing, obviously, the Thursday meeting, or movies this year. They decided that wasn't a moneymaker. Not doing real great with the movies that's coming in, but
Is it because of the time limit?
yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Attendance seems to be really down compared year over year. Of course, last year we can't compare it to that, but if you guys want to see the revenue reports and the expense reports, I can bring them and share them with you. I ran them tonight for that board so they could see. It's pretty significant. I don't know if they need to consider possibly raising their concession rates, or I don't know. So far this year, they're about 12,000 in the red. So
It's hard to get that movie.
it is hard.
Yeah, well, they have to do
because
something,
it-
and, yeah,
can't
they just
control
throw it
it.
out. But it was coming out or streaming on,
Yes.
yeah.
So it is very hard.
Disney Plus or something, yeah.
Just have to make sure we get James Bond.
Yeah. Anyway.
And we've got to figure out a way to make sure that our employees know that how appreciated they are. When I went to that Roger Marshall meeting, I was blown away when he said family of four can make $102,000 a year on unemployment like that in the state of Kansas. Why would someone take a $65,000 a year job? They'd be losing money. And so for these guys who are working at the theater and doing this, without spending a lot of money, we've got to figure out a way to let them know how appreciated they are and how valued they are. And I don't know how you do that. I don't have the answer. But that blew me away when it was 102.
I thought it was 108.
108, yeah.
100.
So yeah, like you were working, but so it just blew me away. So
So a lot of places are fighting right now.
That's right. Then you see what's just listed in China County. And the what's at line for Okay, move on to building permits. Did you ever mention anything to you? Okay.
Other than the photo.
Yeah, fancy.
And I guess he did mention zoning. There was a question about zoning.
What he said was, when he called me this evening, he said he will be working on fixing some zoning issues in the area south of Highway 36 on the west side of River Street.
So I had done some initial work as far as mapping out some zoning, and I sent it out to a mapping company. Even though I said it was complete, I'm like, oh no, they haven't mapped anything inside and stuff. So that's, yes, we are working on that, and there might be, I think it's covered, but there were some questions with some current maps and some old maps as far as, so anyways, I took what was in the ordinance and I sent that off and let's see what comes back on this. We might have to amend some zoning, because it's just an odd location for, hey Gary.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gary.
Ask her, have them get a variance when they have to get so many signatures and you have 4 people to get, well, you get 3 of the 4, that's 75%. It's not the typical 80, whatever you have. So, because that's kind of a anomaly where it's a outside thing, it's not in a residential spot where there's a lot of people. So, he didn't think that was an issue, but anyway, so we're working on getting that mapped out. Once we do, then we figure out if we need to make some adjustments.
Okay. So get down to attorney report.
I had emailed a contract to the council. Scott, you have a draft there. It is a proposed Band-Aid contract for a 3-year term. I know we discussed having one just until November. I have that as well. It just has that we will be extending it until November 21st of, October 31st of 2021. This one is a 3-year renewal with the 2% increases. It's basically what we had before, but it specifies that we had an agreement, it was extended, then it was equitably continued on. I noted the new rate in there as the $16.56 an hour, and then left the same provisions and added in the provision under Section 3 that in the event they transition to automated trucks, we will negotiate in good faith as to the need for the city to either purchase additional receptacles or lease them from Hill, as well as revisions to Sections 1, 2, and 3 of this agreement. The other one that I have here, which was not emailed out because I am having trouble getting it emailed out, just states that it's going until October 31st, which is what was discussed, and then that we'll try and reach a new contract on or before November 1st with the understanding that they are going to automated trash removal services. I This would be, I think, the preferred contract. I mean, we certainly don't want to find ourselves on November 1st without a contract, which if we go the way we said, we are going to be trying to negotiate a new one, but there's really no guarantee of that, whereas with this one, we're 3 years with the understanding that we will, there's the option for negotiations to continue if it's not done by October 31st without any lapse or without an additional document. And so if we want to do just the one that was discussed last meeting, if that's the only one Mr. Hill will sign, then that is, I guess that's the one that Mr. Hill will sign. We need to be under a contract.
I don't know if we're going to know total rates and everything until we get through the automated process.
I thought that's what we had agreed.
Right.
That we were just going to operate on a month-to-month, kind of like we have for the past year.
We discussed we discussed that we were going to extend until November 1st and try and reach a new agreement by then. If we want to continue the month-to-month discussion, I need 5 minutes of executive session because I need to advise the council of a statement from Mr. Hill. So, which is fine. I mean, if the council wants to do that, we can table it until later in the meeting. But this is, I advise, I mean, if nothing until at least November, that we get under a contract.
And JR also asked that he requested no action be taken until he's had an opportunity to look at these himself. So,
Right. Well, I mean, I know there's going to be a new contract once we go automated. I understand that, but we are currently not under contract, and that is.
It was my understanding from Mr. Hill that he was okay.
In
He
advice.
was more concerned with, he didn't get the bump in pay and where he was at.
Right.
He was okay with the month-to-month until we went automated and we could work things out. That was my understanding of that's where I thought we were at, as far as.
I agree. And then
I
was giving him the month of July to figure out his routes and what was going to work on the best piece.
How did that go, by the way?
What's that?
The testing of this one?
I request 5 minutes of executive session because Mr. Hill spoke to JR and I outside and made a statement that I would like to present to the council off the record as advice of counsel, subject to attorney-client privilege.
Okay, we'll table this until the end then. Okay, clerk report.
I don't have too much. Margot Douthit just wanted to know, they're having a concert out at the fairgrounds on Saturday, I think, of the fair. She called today and was just asking if they could put the band shell kind of on hold as a backup plan. I let her know that really they have to still treat it like a special event as if it's going to happen, because if it's a spur-of-the-moment thing, we're not going to have anything in place that needs to be in place. But I wanted to let you know that they're pursuing that as a possibility. They may ask to have a special event at the band shell on the Saturday evening of the fair. I think the issue out there is they may not get their stage ready to go, and that would be the reason why they couldn't have it out there. Possibly alcohol. She didn't know if they were going to do alcohol. I do think that they would like to request a waiver of the rental fee of the band shell, and I said I would just pass that along to you guys. I did let her know that I've got the paperwork ready for her for a special event, so if they decide to go to that route, we'll have it at the next meeting for you to review. So it's just kind of a heads up that they may be asking for that. I don't know who the band is or anything.
Just a note on that real fast. It's obviously up to the council, but I think a waiver on that. They sell tickets and generally profit from it, so I'm not sure that it would be appropriate for the council to waive the fee on a money-making enterprise.
I didn't think about that, yeah.
So I think that goes against the public purpose doctrine.
Yeah,
So,
you're right. I forgot that they charged for that.
So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to control that out at the band shell, but
That is a very good question.
But yeah,
I
so
didn't even think of that. I'll ask Margo that when she comes to pick up the paperwork, if they've considered that.
yeah, if if they're having that waiver, I would, I guess, advise the council against that. Because I don't think if they are profiting from it, it doesn't serve the public purpose doctrine.
Yeah, good point. Then this is just really for information. Generally, I ask for permission in the council to make in a meeting to make an out-of-cycle payment and get it in the minutes for the auditors. We had a situation where we had the tractor lawnmower that the parks guys needed, and it was in, but they wouldn't let them have it until it was paid for, and we didn't know that that was their requirements. This was out at American Implement. Now we know. So in the future, we will ask ahead of time for permission to pay out of cycle. I contacted the mayor, and he gave me permission to make an out-of-cycle payment to them of $2,350. The purchase had already been approved in May by the council, so it was an approved purchase anyway. So just so we can get it in the minutes, we had an out-of-cycle payment that the mayor approved. And then, hoping Lauren will weigh in on this one. So CC4C is hosting an event at the 202 on Washington on the day of the parade. They're going to be bringing in food vendors for before the parade and after the parade to sell food. So it's like a vendor fair, but they're food vendors instead of merchants. It's very similar to what Rachel Morris did. She had vendors. They're having food vendors. I don't know. I feel like they're transient merchants because they don't have a business. These are people that are just going to come in and sell food that day. And they will have to have sales tax IDs unless they only sell 4 times a year, which we don't police that. My question is, do we want to require them to have the $10 transient merchant permit like we did Rachel for this?
Was it just Rachel?
That one was, Rachel was the event coordinator, and then she had a bunch of, you might have missed that, you might have been on vacation. She had a bunch of vendors, and they rented Melissa Sweigert's space. And so at that time, the council decided that if the merchants were inside, they would just have her pay one transient merchant fee, get the permit, and it would cover everybody that's in there. The difference here is it's food, but I don't know.
So they're just renting the building, that kind of thing.
They're not even renting it. It is CC4C that's doing it.
Will it be
But it's running
food
while
trucks?
it's
Not outside. They will all be inside the building or in their courtyard.
I don't know that what they're selling makes a difference.
That's what I was thinking, but I wanted you to weigh in on
And they're
that.
going to be inside the building?
They're going to be inside the building and in the courtyard.
I think it's the same thing. Any individual selling something within the space that is rented or owned falls under whoever is hosting that event. And if they have a food truck that comes, or if someone else comes and they are not physically confined within that property, it needs to be a separate license.
Kind of like we did for Rachel.
Are any of these proceeds going back to 202?
No. They're all keeping the profits. The vendors are keeping the profits for it. They just thought it would be a nice thing to do so people would have a place to go get food after the parade.
And I'm sure we get people in to go to and
To see
they
it,
might get
yeah.
donations and that kind of stuff. So.
Right.
But it's $10.
It's $10. And they don't have a problem with it, but I just want to make sure we're consistent because when we talked about it before, we're talking about, making the craft fairs do it for $10. I feel like we need to be consistent.
I agree. And I guess I don't think it matters what it is they're selling. If it's food, if it's crafts, if it's
Okay. That's what I wanted.
Mary Kay, yeah.
Okay. then I will have her fill out the thing and bring it back.
I don't know that it says in the ordinance that food vendors are any
doesn't.
different than, and if we want to address that, we can, but as it doesn't state anything for this instance, I think we need to treat it the exact same as we did Rachel's.
I have a Sawhill Park, oh, I'm sorry.
sorry.
No, what?
Computers keep dropping and reloading.
I hotspotted because it would not load on mine.
We need to get a boost, some kind of a boost thing back here to boost our internet reception. JR's talked about doing that. It's kind of slipped down on the priority list, but we're working on that.
Project spending.
We should put that on there.
We got to bring it up.
What's that?
Wi-Fi extender.
Yes, that's what he was talking about, yes. I've got the band shell rental agreement here for a Megan Stoneman. They would like to rent the band shell for a private event, a wedding, on September 4th. I just need a motion to approve that if that's okay. I don't know. She's from Ray, I think. Yeah, they paid for it.
Is that application on there?
I'm gonna-
No, I didn't put it out there. I can pass it around. I mean, there's nothing on the application except for her name.
Is there going to be alcohol consumption?
No, it's just a private event. Yeah. She has the rules that alcohol is not allowed on city property and that kind of stuff, so she knows.
And then it was moved by Larry, who seconded it? Caleb. All in favor? The one thing we'll have to remember, though, if we do get some bids coming in on the band shell, we need to make sure it's after September 4th.
And before, well, you guys won't be using it for them. Okay.
They're using it at the park.
Not for the bacteria.
Did you see that? Speaking of that, I gave you a napkin. Okay.
We're going to use between the streets for the food vendors, because that's the only place they can plug in, and the rest of it's going to be down here. We're not going to have it down that easy. Got them during the day down here.
And then the only other thing I got is we received our first distribution of the American Rescue Plan funds on Friday. It was $98,002.47. So it is in the bank, and I have weekly meetings with the Office of Recovery every Thursday. They're helping cities figure out how to do the paperwork and everything that's required.
Do we know what we can even use it for yet?
Well, there's a lot of things. I think I sent you guys a link to some facts that you can go look at and read. There's a lot of things you could use it for. I think for us, we're going to be looking at infrastructure stuff like water or sewer. I think the water control system will probably be an eligible expense, which would be great. And I'm trying to think of some other things that have been talked about. But they keep telling us don't get in a big hurry, just because we've got plenty of time to spend, plenty of time to research. I think JR had thought about talking with Miller & Associates and see if they had some input on what types of things we could be considering. Don't think it's going to be streets, and there was some talk that there might be some streets considered, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. Probably not.
Not yet.
Some communities are using the funds for, like, premium pay for employees who were, for example, people who were impacted by COVID, and that's where you have to prove a COVID impact. The emergency responders, people like that who had to work in extreme conditions because of COVID, they can receive premium pay. That's one of the allowable uses. We didn't really have that here. So, I mean, I'm letting you know if you want to think about it, but that doesn't seem like an appropriate use for us.
I hate to start making that decision.
So that would be,
Wow.
that would be, yeah. So, but you can.
I'd rather put it in this infrastructure.
And I will say, and I'll let you guys know this, but I'll also say that if you decided to go this route, we would need a grant administrator. If you felt like our community still was significantly impacted and still needed support, we can administer grants like we did before for businesses. We can do that again with these funds. But if we do that, they are strongly recommending that cities hire grant administrators to administer that because it's too much there's too much, Justine knows all the paperwork and all the requirements and everything if you're going to do that. So they are encouraging what they call non-entitled units. Those are cities of 50,000 or less like us to probably not go that direction and try to utilize the funds to help the community in infrastructure ways. So that's what they're saying. But if you didn't get that link to the facts, let me know. I'll send it out again. You can go out and read them. I don't know if I put it on the share. I just sent it in an email. And that's all I have.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the audit report?
So,
Moved by David, second by Gail, all in favor. Council comments, David.
just real quick, I know you'll appreciate this one. I have been working feverishly through CCDC to highlight our new businesses. We have a number of new businesses. And I've been wanting to try to get articles in the paper. And I've been having a time getting this done. And I finally, and you may want to go with me on this appointment if you have time, but I finally have an appointment with Mandy on the 26th at 11:45. And I had to almost threaten the newspaper before they finally said they would do articles for free. And I'm like, these are new businesses. Is this really the hill you want to die on? And so they're going to do the articles for free. So they're going to do 2 articles a week until we get caught up. And I think it would be wise for us to put that on our website as well, each time we run those. And so finally, I think we have some traction moving here. So
the only question I have with that, if they are writing the articles, they would have to give me permission to put it on our website.
Well, and that's the other thing. I don't know if we want to let them write the articles. And so it's going to be double work for me, and so I probably will be writing most of the articles, or at least Helen and I jointly.
Then I can put them on.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Penny Gaynor, copy from Bureau would like to do, I can't remember what she called it, it's kind of a walking story or moving story. They've done it in other communities whereby they get like realtor signs and they take pages out of books and they put them so far they can read a page and then you go and you read the next page. And they would like to do that the week of fair, weekend of fair, set that up kind of in the city parks, whether it be both city parks. She's supposed to be checking to see how many actual signs they would need. And I talked to JR. He doesn't seem it would be a problem. He just wants to know how many, and he could maybe time to where they could mow before they put them up, and then they could be up long enough to where we wouldn't have to take them down. But it would be a temporary thing, but she just kind of wanted to put that up as something that would be available for kids to, but she was going to check into it. I think Apple did it around their lake. They did permanent structures. She said it cost like, they got grant money from Hampton, I believe, to do it. It's like $5,000 to get permanent, like, signs, and then you just switch out the stories, and you can change the stories, which I thought was kind of neat. Might be something fun out at Kelly's Pond or something, but she wanted to do something temporary in the city parks the weekend of fair, or the week of fair there. They didn't seem to think it would be a problem. We just needed to know how many and how space they would be in, that kind of stuff. So I said I would bring it to the council and get their opinion, but they didn't seem to. We thought we could work around that. So,
I think that'd be great.
I think it would be great to do a permanent structure out there.
Yeah, do the, and then if they change that up every so often, you might get more people to use that out there. I mean, we're spending money out there, and the Kellers are spending money out there and stuff to promote it and use it more.
And maybe you do a children's story on one side and
Yeah, what do you call that?
it was a moving story, or I don't remember what she called it, but she said Atwood did a permanent one around their lake, and then like Norton, I think, it's through the library, and other communities have County Farm Bureau wants to sponsor it and do it as a temporary thing, but I think long-term, something out at Keller's might be kind of fun too. And you can, like I said, you might have facts about the River bricks or something and kind of break it up for adults, and on the other side have a children's storage or something where you get people out there moseying around the pond. But I think for temporary in the parks, through there, I mean, there's... Mhm. So, anyways, if you guys think that's all right,
Yeah.
she'll get more information to me, and I'll get it to JR and make sure that he can time it with the mowing, and that way the guys don't have to worry about a bunch of signs. 20 signs or whatever there may be. I'm not sure how many she's going to check. So,
Cool.
that's all I have.
There.
I was just going to say, too, with our highway property up there, we're not, if it doesn't work out with this potential person, we really need, I mean, there's a new business, new restaurant there. We need to do something to clean it up and either put, I don't know, something that kind of doesn't look like, I don't know, what we could park on it, or, I don't know.
Would it inhibit it to gravel it? For building, future building, would that bother it?
You need to, yeah, because whatever happens there, they're going to do a lot of work to get it ready for whatever.
I had somebody actually ask me if that could be used as a parking lot for the units. And so, I didn't make any clue on that.
That's not anyway. There used to be steps.
There used to be some steps.
But they cleaned up nice around there. They did. They're rusty. And, I don't know, it just...
Well, they're supposed to be spraying that for the weeds. I don't know how many times he has sprayed.
But I know one time Eddie Schultz, he went up there and mowed it himself. Says that he did mow.
What?
DJ,
Yeah.
Eddie mows. Eddie.
That would be a place for it. Have you heard any complaints from the emergency building? Because we've been up there a couple times, and I saw people parking at the emergency building.
Oh, it's so busy up there. People parking all kinds of different ways, which isn't good.
Very good.
Where it's kind of the language of there, that was the concern before, where there's the hill, where our property is and the weeds are growing up.
And the ground's full of leaves, it's hard to mow.
Yeah.
And I agree that it needs to have a little more cleanup up there.
I mean, everything else is kind of nicer, new village and then, that. And then the empty building.
That's where we need to get one person out there.
Yeah.
Two. And that's why JR's not here, because he had to make a run to Hayes to get Wyatt, because the trash truck that we're delivering our recyclables down to Hudson is broke down.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, one more time.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to ask you too, when you had your, did we get all your surveys?
Oh, well, so there's a bunch they have not all come back, but there's a bunch in the box that I need to sort through this week if I can get to them. By the next council meeting, I'll give you guys where we're at, and we'll make some decisions at that. I have gotten more back, but the last count we still aren't there. So, yeah. I think we will have to end up doing a little bit of that.
We've got an opening band now for concert in the park. It's pretty about ready to get things about. They'll play a variety of music. We should have posters out hopefully within 2 weeks. Everything seems to be in place. We got tremendous response from the community to help us out. What's the date again? August 28th. So
That last band you had, they got pretty big, haven't they?
Long man?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. They're national anthem at Church Field.
Really?
They did at Cardinal Stadium. They're pushing into Kansas and Missouri a little bit now. Look back to Texas. I mean, this is exploded this year. Of course, a lot of that's coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little tougher to hold.
Right.
some other options, maybe some different options for next year. We're actually talking to Jimmy D about possible concert in the park next year. See what happens along there and everything too.
And then you have the like the 50s and 60s music.
And it's
Right up my alley.
they were good though.
Oh, they're good. They're good. And I don't know how much longer he can keep doing it because he's my age.
The only other thing I've got is I've had several complaints from people about outdated tags on vehicles parked on the streets all over town and golf carts and ATVs.
I think they're starting to rain. Well, the other day, there was one that came in that forgot to get his permit for his ATV. But I think there's, did Cody get the deal on those about the ATVs and stuff too?
I talked to Cody and I talked with Jen, and I need to get back with Cody as far as trying to get something condensed. Here's the rules, like try to streamline it. Cody was not aware that they have to have the slow-moving vehicle signs on them, so they weren't checking for those. I know we had one renew their tag on Friday, and they parked on Main Street in front of City Hall, and
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
and Jen didn't realize it until after she'd already gotten them the receipt, or she would not have done that, and I asked over across the street, and nope, it was a renewal, so they didn't even bother to inspect it and check, and I thought, well, it's sitting on Main Street where it shouldn't be, and it doesn't have a slow-moving vehicle sign, and so I think it's just them getting up to speed of what is in there and enforcing it, and I don't know what you do to enforce the ones that have already gotten tags that aren't up to stuff 100%. I mean, I'm
Are you talking about strictly golf carts have to have those things?
ATVs, any of
They're
those.
all,
All of them have to have that slow moving, and they have to have a rear view mirror, from my understanding.
I'd have to
Be on
be
Main
ordinance.
Street.
They cannot be on Main
They
Street.
can they be on College?
They can't be on the highway, they can go across the
highway and
highway.
Main Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, and JR and I talked about that too, that maybe we ought to require them to have most cities on ATVs flags that are up in the air.
I don't think we got to do the license for my camper in February. They gave me a template of what to put on there, and said to do when it comes to it. I should have gotten that by now, haven't I? Shouldn't have. I just realized that. I think it was real. So I need to go up there, I guess.
Jen did say, and I'm glad you brought this up, because Jen did say that it would be, in her opinion, better to put a flyer in the bills rather than just a note on the bill, with more information.
And I need to get back. Cody's been working nights, and so it's hard to catch him. He comes in later in the day. I was going to touch base with him, and Jennifer, what he wants and what we think, like, here's where you can't be, like, this is, you know, here's the ordinance where you can find all the information, but kind of a sweet and condensed little, every time they come in and get a tag, here's the rules.
Right.
And now whether or not you give them 2 pages of ordinance, or you kind of condense it for them to say for more information, you can go to this ordinance. I think a sweetened, condensed kind of thing would be easier for people to,
Yes.
with the pages like,
go from when we got it here.
January.
They're supposed to renew it in January, but
They probably don't until May, when it gets, you know, April, May, it gets nice out and they start dragging them around, you know.
And I don't know why we require the slow moving, because most of them aren't moving slow. They're moving down the street as fast as a car.
Golf carts might be a little bit slower.
Not
Some of
much,
them, yeah.
not slower. If they push down on the pedal, they're going fast enough. But I wonder about the flags being up in the air. Is a little bit more something bouncing around that they see. They'll see that before they'll see the slow moving.
Yeah, but I thought the slow moving.
Yeah, the slow moving side is on there. And most of them don't have it on there, do you?
And I guess it could be slow moving and on one flag. I don't know. I mean, we could make it.
And-
like to rewrite the ordinance.
Yeah, we could do that, and or what an ATV. Yeah, so low.
Well, Or those side-by-sides that you have the slow moving, you know, where they've got caps on them.
I think it's like that, too.
Oh, yeah, so they'll run it at 80 mile an hour. And they set up as high as a car.
Do you want something put in the bills to go out to everybody, or do you want to, what are you guys thinking with that?
I think we do it, but we might get punished for it as well, because he's the one having to enforce it, so maybe we're...
Do we want to change it to require flags if we're going to, before we put something in the bill, so we can, I mean...
Well, an ordinance has to be published for 2 weeks, right, before it takes effect.
I think an ordinance is, I think it's effective upon first
Is
publication.
it?
I think it's effective upon first publication, but it still has to be published.
Well, we wouldn't be able to get them out in the August bills, and we're looking at September. If you wanted something to come out in August, we'd have to do it before the next meeting, because Virginia has to stuff bills.
Well, we've had this little problem with this kid too, that's going around mowing yards, and he went up Main Street the other day, and his car tractor pulling him straight up. And he's out mowing yards, and I don't want to stop him from doing any of that, but he does not need to be on Main Street.
Cody said something about ordinance, or not ordinance, but state statute as far as...
50cc. Well,
If he's not on Main Street and if he's obeying the traffic laws, you need to...
but I'd like to see a flag on that too,
Yeah.
because it sets low.
Yeah.
And so, just, put a flag on there, and we're gonna let
Stay on the main
you, we're gonna let you go
street,
mow your
stop
yard
signs,
and do
yeah.
that stuff, and, he's...
Yeah, you hate to discourage the kid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You hate somebody backing out.
Yeah, that'd be even worse.
Yeah, I mean, if ATVs and UTVs can't be on Main Street, I don't think the little long trucks should be on there either. So,
Agreed.
Anything, golf carts, all that stuff that we're letting them put a tag on to run around town on, needs to stay off Main Street and the highways. Do we want to require flags? I think it's a good thing for certain vehicles, that's for sure.
I think you should require flags. Because,
Yeah, an ATV without a cab should have a flag, or anything shorter than 5 feet, 6 feet.
Anything shorter than 6 feet is going to be, a lot of cars are going to be driving around with flags on them.
But they're already tagged vehicles. This is for
And a golf cart, the canopy sticks that high.
on DOT.
It's not that hard for them to go buy a flag, a golf cart, they can go buy a little flag and zip tie it onto their canopy there, and it sticks up in the air there a couple feet, which is just a safety feature. And I think if they want to drive them around town that much and really want to use it, if they can't afford to do that, then why'd they buy a golf cart and run around town on and stuff?
I'll work on a revision to propose.
well, let's wait and talk to Cody, because he's the one enforcing it. And I really feel like we need his input on... We don't want to change something and then he says, I have no way of enforcing that. I mean, I just think we
Right.
need to have that conversation with him to make sure he's on board, because he's the one that's going to have to enforce it. And we want to make sure that whether or not...
I agree with Scott on flags over the snow removal. Flag needs to go over.
So we're waiting
Okay,
to talk to Cody about flags.
Yeah, let's wait
See
2
what he
weeks
wants to-
and then try to make
Well,
a
we won't be able
decision.
to get anything. We can probably, because if we get something this week,
I mean, if you guys pre-approve something that the council doesn't have on
really,
it.
I think we could create, putting something in the bills, and Jen was going to go through the ordinance. When I talked to Jen, she was going to kind of...
But if we're going to require flags, we're going to change the ordinance. We're going to tell them one thing, and then we're going to turn around and immediately change it.
But then we won't really touch that too much in the bills. I think we could put something in there as far as having to have insurance, having to have...
And staying off Main, because that's not going to change.
I mean, that's the main thing, is
Yeah.
you have to have a tag, you have to have insurance, you have to, like, have a valid driver's license, you cannot be on Main Street.
Yeah, right.
The flag and or slow-moving vehicle thing can kind of be a...
Right. Yeah.
Should be able to put them.
Yeah.
Parking in the street for sale. Or a golf cart or an ATV, side by side, parking in the street.
I think as far as getting it not on Main Street, you have to have a city guy and you have to be insured. We could get that much in there because Cody's going to start cracking down on them.
Yeah.
And he did pull one person over. I came in and got a tag, I think, on Friday. He ended up pulling somebody over, so they're starting to crack down to get the word out.
If we're cracking down on Kelly and other people with unlicensed cars parking in the street, then it's probably going to say something about their unlicensed cars.
Oh, yeah. Well, they always, once they pick on us.
You gotta be square across the board.
Yeah.
Well, if you can put something together, if the council's good with whatever you and Jen can come up with.
And Cody, because we would talk with Cody and just get, like I said, just here's the rules.
Yeah.
Well, asking about the flags, I know in other states, you have to have a flag on the ring in the air where you're moving.
Even if you're in off-road and on a trail right in Arizona, you have to have a flag.
You have to have a flag.
Or you're done.
And,
And if that's something to keep members looking at, then just moving, like I said, he's the one that has to enforce it. I hate that.
Well, we don't have to put that in this notice that we're
But I think
sending out.
staff may,
Yeah.
But I think
you have to
it's
have a
smart.
city tag, you have to have insurance, like, I think those
Slow moving signs again here.
are enough.
yeah, they're down, the ones I've seen are down so low, most people don't understand. Yeah. But to me, that's ugly, and all about to put a big old metal slow-moving sign on there like they have on tractors and stuff, and then it's usually down low enough for a lot of people to see it. But like I said, none of them are moving that slow. The only thing that's moving that slow is the problem skin of the garden tractor. And he needs a 5 in the air.
Well, there's some people in big vehicles. Not going to walk fast enough.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see them coming up to a stop sign, and they're stopped, and I'll still walk away.
And it's still.
And they wait for me to get there, and then they wave me off. I'm like, you've been there for 20 seconds. I don't know what you're doing, but it wears me out. Definitely, you got to give them grace. I'm from Dallas, I can't do it. Just wait.
Definitely looking to buy in Jim's old pickup truck after we passed. And my heart went like that. She was like, "Do you think he came back from the grave and was driving the truck?" I was like, "No, I've just never seen that truck move that fast."
And maybe we could just leave everything the way it is for right now, get it in the statements going out, but then next year, we could have it changed the first of next year that we want lights on there now.
This is getting kind of late in the game to...
It is, or halfway through this year.
Yeah.
How do you go back on the 2 dozen that have already got
And,
stickers and
say
say, oh, by the
something,
way, you
yeah.
have to do this? I think if we change it, we'll just enforce it starting January.
That we can add that on there, so then when they come, then we've added lights on.
Do you want that put on project spending so we don't forget?
That's so we don't forget it.
I have a point when Cal brought up for sale things. I think you're talking about on Scott. Okay. In looking at the ordinance, there's a whole section on sidewalks, but then there's a section on streets, and I think the way it's worded probably needs to be reworded. No person may use any portion of any sidewalk or street right-of-way for the purpose of displaying or offering for sale wares, goods, merchandise, or other items so as to impede pedestrian traffic. And I'm not sure, since this is in using streets, that we don't want to also have it say vehicular traffic, or just take out so as to impede traffic. I mean, if you say no person may use any portion of any sidewalk or street right-of-way for the purpose of displaying or offering for sale wares, goods, merchandise, or other items. End of statement.
I don't know if you want to go to the, like, somebody
My,
It's a legitimate vehicle though, with the tag and everything else, that's fine.
What do you do when you got two 7-year-old girls doing a lemonade stand and they got in the yard and there's cars parking, stopping to get lemonade?
Or just something on the sidewalk. I mean, I don't know.
So what-
I don't think we want to.
my main thing is that it says so as to impede pedestrian traffic, but we're talking about street right-of-ways. This is in the section under street. I don't know why you're not allowed to be in the street so as to impede pedestrian traffic. Pedestrian traffic shouldn't be in the street. But it doesn't say anything in here about impeding vehicular traffic. That was more my thing, because when there is a vehicle being parked perpendicularly and work done, we actually don't have, technically, a blocking traffic ordinance because it only says pedestrian traffic in reading the ordinance specifically. We do not have a...
Is there anything in the standard traffic ordinance book?
There's a blockade. There's creating a blockade, I believe. I don't have the ordinance with me. I can take a look at it. But we don't have... It just seems interesting to me that our street one only mentions impeding pedestrian traffic. I guess it's been brought up at some point. We have a lot of ordinances and possibly going through and recodifying, and if we do that, I would just suggest that at that time we... All right. Okay, I just thought while we were on the subject, I bring it up.
Okay, anything else? Okay, let's look at the bills here real quick, and then we'll do our executive session.
Do you know, or how we can pay each item for what we owe?
It's in tonight's bill. Yes, yep. We went ahead and, you guys authorized it last meeting, and we went ahead and paid it. The past-due amount was paid. Yep. And we paid it out of the general fund, so that it doesn't affect the refuse fund at this point. So that's running out of money.
Okay, yep, you're welcome. What's that? Who paid it? I'm sorry.
Oh, I meant to mention that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I just saw that. I thought, well, that was March, and I didn't know if that was...
Here, Melinda,
So JR said, I forgot about that, I was supposed to mention the pool painting bids. They're out there, you can look at them. He didn't want any action done on those, he needs to look at them. There's a significant difference between the low bid and the other ones. He wants to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. He'll bring it back to the next meeting. Yeah. For how many dollars? Oh, that was something that had to go out of the dump. I don't know what it was, but it was the landfill bill for $2.
Every time that she writes a full people check.
When you sign checks, it's like...
And then I sign those ones that are $50,000 and this and that. Ooh, I like
And then
the
you got
small
a
ones.
$2 one.
By the time you use the envelope and the stamp and everything else.
Really just to look at that one across the street.
Yeah, yeah, those she does
And then you
deliver.
print the check and get it online. It's not hard to even get it.
Anybody have any questions on the bills?
not, but I saw
Oh.
pictures somewhere. Maybe it was in the paper. I'm not sure. Somewhere I saw some
Yeah,
pictures, but I haven't.
It looks, yeah, it looks pretty good.
It's very nice.
Uh-huh.
I had a video conference with John Griffin
Oh.
over there
Uh-huh.
earlier last week, and it looks really nice.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Did they come up with any set times for her?
Yes, there we go, sit on the door. So, yes. Yes, we approved them tonight.
What time is she going to be open?
Oh, not yet. I don't even know.
Well, I went up there one day. She
I know.
wasn't there, then I had a hard person.
It was on our highlighted thing
Yeah.
on the board, so.
And I told Carla that, I said, you guys got to have set times, because once she gets a set time.
I thought it was 10 to 3 on,
Yeah,
I don't remember what day.
like Monday through Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
And then some shorter hours on Thursday.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
long as
so that way
there's some
people-
times there, people get used to it.
Yeah.
So,
And will she have a contact number on the door too?
Yes,
for-
there's contact and email,
Perfect.
so, yeah. But yeah, the new sign that's hanging on the wall in there, that's really cool. Yeah. You did a good job. Publish.
okay, do I hear a motion to approve the bills on ordinance 1052? Been moved by Cale, second by Amanda. All in favor? The bills are approved. Okay. Okay, I guess we can go into executive session.
What was that, attorney-client privilege for?
Advice of counsel.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for 5 minutes for
Advice of counsel subject to attorney-client privilege.
advice of counsel.
Yeah, by counsel mayor.
Do I hear a second? Second by Larry.
Hang on just a second.
Basically,
We are coming out, no decisions were made, correct? Go back in for 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
I'll have a little
Okay.
So moved.
moved by Amanda, second by Cale. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so after all this discussion, does everybody feel like we need to send him something to have signed to continue the same services he's doing now until October? And then once he figures out his automation stuff, and then we have to revisit the contract. So I understand what Lauren's saying there, that we are not under contract. We're not. And he said he didn't want to leave us out, pull the plug out from under it. He needs us, but there's no guarantees, and so it is. That's what.
My concern is that if he has to pull the rug out from someone, it's going to be the ones who aren't under contract.
Yeah.
So,
It's really, I think we should keep this because
Oh,
of the
yeah.
fact he put all this investment in.
He's invested in those
Yeah.
3 trucks, and
and I think we want to keep, and I think we want to keep him. Right, and I think we want to keep him, and we want to work towards that, but
So do I hear a motion, we send him a Band-Aid contract that's just saying we're going to continue the same services we are until October, and then rewrite the contract, and then it goes to the automation.
through October, till November 1st, because we were,
Okay.
they were going to test it out, my understanding was they were going to test it out in July, try and zone it in August, get it to me because we're going to have to revise the ordinances and get them published for September, and if anything gets hung up, then we have that kind of October month for figuring it out and getting the negotiations into place, and then go effective on the 1st of November for the new contract, was the timeline that I was understanding from the previous meeting. Does that sound
It's going to take a little bit of time to
right?
negotiate some things. There's going to be some people that are going to be hot over this. They don't have any other choice but to go out and mention it. So,
We just talked about that, and extend the contract.
Just an extension of what we're doing with the higher rate until November 1, with the provision that says, we understand you're going automated, we will renegotiate either this contract or come up with a whole new contract at that time.
it's been made by Harris, second by Dale, all in favor? Okay, we're going to go that round. And we're going to have to start the negotiations before. Real soon, and as soon as he...
That's why I said November 1st.
Yeah.
Sarah's up first, I'm up second.
Yes.
I'll go get that for you to sign.
Are we up,